Hey guys, tonight we begin with human behavior. Those quiet experiences the mind creates when the day finally lets go. Before you get comfortable, if calm, thoughtful videos like this help you unwind, you can gently like the video or subscribe, only if it feels right. And if you'd like, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now dim the lights, let the room soften, and slowly drift with me through the quiet psychology of human behavior. There's a soft science, one that moves like water through the spaces between thought and feeling, between what we say and what we truly mean. It is the study of being human, and it begins not with loud answers, but with gentle questions whispered into the dusk. Psychology is the tender observation of how we move through the world, how we love and fear and hope and forget, how we become ourselves in the quietest hours. Tonight, we will walk slowly through 100 small truths about the human mind, each one a candle flickering softly in a darkened room. Each one a reminder that to understand ourselves is to hold our own hand in the growing night. The mind is not a machine. It does not tick or hum or operate in straight lines. Instead, it drifts like clouds at evening, soft and formless and endlessly changing. Psychology asks us to notice this drift, to see how thoughts arise without permission, how moods settle over us like fog, how memories surface when we least expect them. And in noticing, we find a strange comfort. We begin to see that the chaos within us is not chaos at all, but a kind of order too subtle for the waking world to name. Human behavior is the language the soul speaks when words are not enough. It is the way a person leans toward warmth, the way they flinch from harm, the way they reach out in the dark hoping someone will reach back. Every action, every choice, every hesitation, all of it whispers something true. And psychology listens. It listens to the pauses between sentences, to the things we do without knowing why, to the patterns we repeat like lullabies sung to ourselves in sleep. To study human behavior is to become a student of shadows. We learn that people are rarely what they seem, that beneath the surface of every face is an ocean too deep to measure. We learn that kindness is often fear wearing a softer mask, that anger is sometimes love that has forgotten its own name, that silence can hold more meaning than 1,000 spoken words. And so we move gently. We approach the human heart the way one might approach a sleeping animal, with reverence and care, and the knowledge that we, too, are made of the same tender substance. The beauty of psychology is that it asks nothing of us but attention. We do not need to fix or change or improve. We need only to observe, to watch the way a thought moves through the mind like a breeze through tall grass, to notice the way a feeling rises and falls like breath, to see how we are all, in our own quiet ways, trying to make sense of a world that offers no instructions, no map, no promise of safe arrival. And yet we continue. We wake each morning and place one foot in front of the other. We build routines that comfort us. We form habits that become the scaffolding of our days. We create meaning where none existed before. This is the miracle of being human, that even in uncertainty, we find ways to ground ourselves, to make a home in the unknown. As we begin this slow journey through the psychology of human behavior, let yourself settle. Let your body become heavy against whatever holds you. Let your breath deepen and slow. There is no need to remember every word, no need to hold tightly to any single idea. Let the facts wash over you like waves, each one carrying you a little further from the day you left behind, each one guiding you gently toward rest. We are all, in the end, mysteries to ourselves. We spend our entire lives inside our own minds, and yet we never fully understand them. We make decisions we cannot explain. We feel emotions that seem to come from nowhere. We dream dreams that dissolve upon waking. And psychology reminds us that this is not a flaw, it is the condition of being alive. To be human is to be uncertain, to be complex, to be a creature of both light and shadow, and to somehow, miraculously, keep going anyway. So let us begin softly. Let us move through these 100 quiet truths the way one might walk through a forest at twilight, slowly, attentively, with a willingness to be surprised. Let us remember that every fact about the human mind is also a fact about ourselves, a small key that unlocks a door we did not know was closed. And let us trust that in understanding, we will find not answers, but something better. A deep and abiding peace with the beautiful, bewildering mystery of what it means to be here, to be alive, to be human. The mind does not demand that we solve it. It asks only that we listen. And tonight, in the gathering quiet, that is exactly what we will do. As the evening deepens and the world outside begins to blur at the edges, we turn our attention to the body. That soft vessel we carry with us always, the one that speaks in whispers when the voice falls silent. The body is a language older than words, a grammar written in muscle and bone, and the faint flutter of a pulse. And if we are very still, if we allow ourselves to drift into that quiet place between waking and sleep, we can begin to hear what it is saying. There are expressions that cross the face in less than a second, so brief they might be mistaken for shadows. Psychologists call them micro-expressions, these fleeting glimpses of truth that slip past the careful masks we wear. A tightening around the eyes that suggests fear, a momentary downturn of the lips that hints at sadness, a flash of surprise that vanishes before it can be named. These are not lies. They are the body's honesty, the moments when the soul forgets to hide. We communicate far more through gesture than we realize. The way someone crosses their arms might speak of protection or uncertainty. The tilt of a head can signal curiosity or affection. The distance we maintain between ourselves and others, this invisible boundary, reveals how safe or threatened we feel. The body negotiates the world in inches and angles, and every movement is a kind of poetry, soft and subtle and endlessly meaningful. Posture, too, carries its own quiet language. A person who stands tall with shoulders back is not simply occupying space. They are speaking confidence into the air around them. Someone who folds inward, who makes themselves small, is often asking the world to be gentle. And we read these signals without thinking, our brains decoding the stance and shape of another person in milliseconds, deciding whether to approach or retreat, to trust or to guard. Even the way we breathe tells a story. Shallow breaths that catch high in the chest often accompany anxiety, the body preparing for danger that may never arrive. Deep breaths that fill the belly speak of calm, of a nervous system that has learned it is safe. And between these two extremes, the rhythm of ordinary breathing, there exists a kind of dialogue between body and mind, each one influencing the other in an endless, gentle loop. The hands, too, are messengers. They fidget when we are nervous, tapping or twisting or reaching for something to hold. They open wide when we speak of things we love, as if trying to embrace the words themselves. They clench into fists when we are angry or afraid, the body readying itself for conflict, even when no conflict will come. And when we are at peace, the hands rest softly, fingers loose and still, content to simply exist without purpose. Touch is the first language we ever learn. Before words, before thought, there was the sensation of skin against skin, the warmth of being held, the comfort of knowing we were not alone. And throughout our lives, touch remains a profound communicator. A hand on the shoulder can offer reassurance. A gentle squeeze of the fingers can say what the voice cannot. Even the absence of touch speaks. It tells of distance, of walls built between one heart and another. Eye contact, too, is a conversation without sound. When we meet someone's gaze, We are offering a kind of intimacy, a willingness to be seen. Too much eye contact can feel invasive, as though someone is searching for secrets we would rather keep. Too little can suggest discomfort or dishonesty, a reluctance to truly connect. And so we navigate this delicate balance, looking and looking away, creating a rhythm that allows us to be close without overwhelming. The face is a landscape of emotion. There are 43 muscles dedicated to expression, each one capable of revealing joy or sorrow or surprise or disgust. And these expressions are universal. A smile means the same in every language. A frown carries the same weight in every culture. This is the body's way of ensuring we are understood, of building bridges between minds that might otherwise remain isolated. But the body also knows how to hide. We learn early that not all feelings are welcome, that some emotions must be tucked away where no one can see. And so we smile when we are sad. We laugh when we are afraid. We say, "I'm fine," while our shoulders slump and our hands tremble. The body tries to tell the truth, but we teach it to lie. And in that tension between honesty and performance, a kind of exhaustion is born. Still, the body is patient. It will keep sending signals, keep whispering its needs, until we finally learn to listen. It will tighten the jaw to say we are holding too much stress. It will quicken the heartbeat to suggest we need to rest. It will soften in the presence of someone we trust and stiffen around someone we do not. The body is always teaching, always offering clues about what we truly feel, and all we must do is pay attention. There is a particular kind of stillness that the body seeks, a state where nothing needs to be said or shown or performed. In this stillness, the muscles release their grip. The breath finds its natural rhythm. The face relaxes into an expression that belongs to no one but sleep. This is the body's truest language, the one it speaks only when it believes it is safe, when it knows it can finally let go. And so, as we drift deeper into this quiet exploration of what it means to be human, let your own body soften. Let the language of gesture and posture fade into the background. You do not need to communicate anything now. You do not need to show or hide or translate. You need only to be, to rest, to allow the body to speak its oldest, gentlest word, which is simply peace. Far beneath the surface of awareness, where attention blurs and focus begins to dissolve, the mind engages in a kind of wandering. Thoughts arise like birds lifting from a field at dusk, unpredictable and directionless, moving according to laws we cannot see. This is not failure. This is not distraction. This is simply how the mind breathes. It drifts, and in drifting, it finds connections that logic alone could never forge. Psychologists have discovered that the wandering mind is not idle. When we daydream, when we let our thoughts float freely without tethering them to tasks or goals, the brain enters a state called the default mode network. In this state, different regions of the brain light up and begin to converse with one another. Memories are sorted. Emotions are processed. The self is quietly constructed and reconstructed, like a story being edited in real time. And all of this happens not in spite of wandering, but because of it. Attention is not meant to be a spotlight held rigidly in place. It is more like a lantern carried through the dark, casting light here and there, illuminating what matters in the moment before moving on. We cannot focus forever. The mind tires of sharpness. It needs, at intervals, to soften its gaze, to let the edges blur, to rest in the kind of formless awareness that feels, to the modern world, like laziness, but which is, in truth, essential. Children understand this instinctively. Watch a child lost in play, and you will see the mind in its natural state, fluid, imaginative, unbound by the rigid categories of adult thought. But somewhere along the way, we learn to be ashamed of this wandering. We are told to pay attention, to stay on task, to discipline the mind into submission. And in doing so, we lose something precious, the ability to simply be with ourselves, to let thoughts come and go like weather, without judgment or urgency. There is a particular quality to thoughts that arise unbidden. They do not announce themselves. They do not wait for permission. They simply appear as if from nowhere and then dissolve just as mysteriously. One moment you are thinking about what you need from the store, the next, you are remembering a conversation from years ago. And then, without warning, you are imagining a place you have never been. The mind moves like this constantly, weaving a tapestry of associations too intricate to map. Scientists have found that mind wandering is linked to creativity. When we allow thoughts to drift, we stumble upon ideas we would never have found through deliberate searching. The solution to a problem that seemed impossible yesterday might arrive this morning, not because we worked harder, but because we stopped working altogether. The mind, when left to its own devices, is remarkably good at making sense of the nonsensical, at finding patterns in chaos, at creating beauty from fragments. But wandering is not always pleasant. Sometimes the mind drifts toward worry, toward regret, toward the rehearsal of conversations that will never happen and the reliving of moments we cannot change. This, too, is the mind trying to protect us, trying to prepare us for dangers it imagines might be coming. It does not know that some dangers exist only in thought, that some storms never arrive. And so it rehearses, endlessly, a script for a play that will never be performed. The irony is that the more we try to control our thoughts, the more they resist. Tell yourself not to think about something, and that very thing becomes unavoidable. This is because the mind cannot process negation. It hears the subject, the forbidden idea, and in trying to avoid it, it brings it closer. And so the act of suppression becomes the act of obsession, and the thought we wanted to banish becomes the one we cannot escape. There is wisdom, then, in letting thoughts be, in watching them the way one might watch clouds passing overhead, noticing their shapes without needing to hold on to them, allowing them to move through the vast open sky of awareness without resistance. This is not passivity. It is a kind of active acceptance, a recognition that the mind will do what the mind will do, and that our peace depends not on controlling it, but on learning to see. Coexist with it. Meditation traditions have long understood this. They teach that the goal is not to empty the mind, not to achieve some impossible state of blankness, but rather to observe the mind's activity without becoming entangled in it. Thoughts will come. Let them. They will also go. Let them do that too. And in the space between coming and going, there is a stillness that feels almost sacred, a quiet that exists not in the absence of thought, but in the gentle witnessing of it. Even now, as you listen to these words, your mind is wandering. Part of you is here, following the narration, and part of you is elsewhere, thinking about tomorrow, or remembering yesterday, or noticing a sensation in your body. This is not wrong. This is the mind being what it is, a thing that moves, a thing that flows, a thing that resists all attempts to pin it down. And perhaps this is the deepest comfort, that we are not required to master our own minds. We are not failing when thoughts drift. We are simply being human. The mind is not a problem to be solved. It is a river to be observed, a sky to be appreciated, a landscape that changes with every passing moment. And the more we can rest in this understanding, the more we can allow ourselves to simply be, without effort, without struggle, without the exhausting demand that we be anything other than what we are. So let your thoughts drift now. Let them move like evening clouds across the dimming sky. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to figure out. The mind will wander, and that is good. It will return, and that is good too. All of it, the drifting and the returning, the forgetting and the remembering, all of it, is simply the quiet music of being alive. In another corner of this ancient world, where the body and mind meet in seamless conversation, emotions rise and fall like tides. They do not ask permission. They do not wait for the right moment. They arrive, unbidden and undeniable, carrying with them the wisdom of something older than words. To feel is to be alive, and to understand feeling is to hold the key to a gentler way of being. Emotions are often described as though they were intruders, things to be managed or controlled, or, if possible, avoided altogether. But this is a misunderstanding. Emotions are not disruptions. They are information. They are the body's way of interpreting the world, of telling us what matters, of guiding us towards safety and connection and meaning. And when we learn to listen to them without fear, they become not our enemies, but our most faithful companions. Each emotion has a texture, a quality that moves through the body in a particular way. Joy feels light, expansive, as though the chest might open like a door to let the sunlight in. Sadness is heavier, slower, a kind of inward folding that asks us to be still. Anger is heat and urgency, a rising energy that demands action. Fear is sharp and sudden, the body's ancient alarm signaling that danger may be near. And beneath all of these, woven through every feeling, is the quiet presence of love. The longing to be safe, to be seen, to belong. The science of emotion reveals something beautiful and surprising. Feelings do not happen only in the mind. They are whole body events. When you feel anxious, your heart rate increases, your muscles tense, your breathing becomes shallow. The body is preparing you to face a threat, even if that threat exists only in imagination. When you feel calm, the opposite occurs. The heart slows, the muscles release, the breath deepens. The body knows it is safe, and in knowing, it allows itself to rest. This means that we can influence our emotions not only through thought, but through the body. A slow, deliberate breath can quiet an anxious mind. A smile, even if forced at first, can shift the chemistry of the brain toward contentment. A change in posture, standing tall instead of hunched, can create a subtle sense of confidence. The body and mind are not separate. They are partners in the dance of feeling, and when we learn to move one, the other follows. But emotions are not always straightforward. Sometimes we feel things we cannot name. A vague unease that settles over the day like fog, a restlessness that has no clear cause, a sadness that seems to come from nowhere and refuses to leave. These are not failures of emotional clarity. They are reminders that feelings are complex, that they often carry multiple meanings, that they can be responses not just to what is happening now, but to what happened long ago. To memories we have forgotten, but the body has not. Psychologists speak of something called emotional granularity, the ability to distinguish between subtle shades of feeling. Someone with high emotional granularity might recognize the difference between feeling anxious, worried, uneasy, and overwhelmed. Someone with lower granularity might experience all of these as simply bad. And research shows that the more precisely we can know what we feel, the better we are able to navigate it. Language, in this way, becomes a tool for emotional freedom. When we can say exactly what we feel, we are no longer lost in the fog. We have found a path. There is also the phenomenon of emotional contagion, the way feelings spread from one person to another like ripples across water. Walk into a room where someone is anxious, and you may begin to feel anxious too, even if you do not know why. Sit beside someone who is calm, and your own nervous system may begin to settle. We are not isolated emotional islands. We are deeply, mysteriously connected, and the feelings of others move through us whether we are aware of it or not. This is why the company we keep matters so profoundly. To be around people who are gentle with their own emotions is to learn gentleness. To be around people who are at war with themselves is to absorb that conflict. And while we cannot always choose our circumstances, we can become more intentional about the emotional climates we allow into our lives. We can seek out the people and places that help us feel like the truest, softest versions of ourselves. Emotions also have a lifespan. They are not permanent, even when they feel that way. Neuroscientists have found that the physiological lifespan of an emotion, the time it takes for the chemical cascade to move through the body, is about 90 seconds. 90 seconds. After that, the emotion continues only because we are continuing it, feeding it with thought, replaying the story that keeps it alive. This is not to say that grief or fear or anger should be rushed. It is only to remind us that feelings are visitors. They come, they stay for a while, and then, if we let them, they leave. The challenge is that we often do not let them leave. We cling to anger because it feels like power. We hold on to sadness because it feels like loyalty to something we have lost. We avoid joy because we are afraid of its impermanence. And in doing so, we trap ourselves in emotional loops that were never meant to last. The body knows how to release feeling. It is the mind that insists on holding on. There is a practice, simple and profound, of allowing emotions to move. When a feeling arises, instead of pushing it away or becoming lost in it, we can breathe into it. We can notice where it lives in the body. We can give it space to exist without needing to fix or change or understand it. And often, this is enough. The feeling, acknowledged and allowed, begins to soften. It loses its sharp edges. It becomes something we can be with, rather than something we must fight. And so, as you rest here in the growing quiet, notice what you feel. Not to judge it, not to change it, simply to allow it. Let whatever emotion is present be exactly as it is. Let it move through you like water through a riverbed, shaping you perhaps, but not defining you. You are not your emotions. You are the vast, open space in which they rise and fall. And in that space, there is room for everything: joy and sorrow, fear and courage, longing and peace. All of it belongs. All of it is welcome. Memory is a soft echo, a whisper that carries across time, bringing back not the past itself, but the feeling of it. We do not remember with perfect clarity. We remember in fragments, in impressions, in colors and sounds that may or may not have been real. The mind is not a camera. It is a storyteller, and every memory it preserves is a story it has chosen to tell, edited, shaped, and sometimes entirely reimagined. When we recall a moment from our past, we are not simply retrieving a file from storage. We are reconstructing it. The brain pieces together fragments, sensory details, emotions, context, and weaves them into something that feels whole. But each time we remember, we change the memory slightly. We add new details. We remove others. We color it with our current mood. And so, over time, the memory becomes less like a photograph and more like a painting. Beautiful, meaningful, but not entirely true to the original. This is why two people can remember the same event completely differently. They are not lying. They are simply telling different stories, stories shaped by their own emotions, their own perspectives, their own needs. Memory is subjective. It is personal. It is a reflection not of what happened, but of what mattered to us about what happened. And in this way, our memories are less about the past and more about who we are now. Some memories are vivid and bright, as though they happened yesterday. These are often the moments that carried strong emotion: a first kiss, a sudden loss, a moment of triumph or terror. The brain tags these experiences as important. It wraps them in neurochemical significance, so they will not be forgotten. But even these vivid memories are not as accurate as they feel. Research shows that our most confident memories are often the most flawed. We believe them completely, and yet they may be riddled with inaccuracies we will never notice. Then there are the memories that fade, the ordinary days, the unremarkable hours, the moments that felt insignificant at the time. These dissolve quietly, leaving behind only a vague sense that something was there. We forget most of our lives, not because they were not worth remembering, but because the brain cannot hold everything. It must choose. And what it chooses to keep is what it believes will help us survive, or what it believes defines who we are. Forgetting, then, is not a failure. It is a function. It is the mind's way of making room, of prioritizing what matters and releasing what does not. Without forgetting, we would be overwhelmed by the sheer volume of our own past. We would be unable to move forward because we would be drowning in memory. Forgetting is a kindness the mind offers itself, a way of staying light enough to keep going. There is also a particular kind of memory that feels almost sacred, the memory of sensory experience. The smell of rain on warm pavement, the sound of a loved one's laughter, the feel of sunlight on skin. These memories are stored differently than facts or events. They bypass the parts of the brain responsible for language and go straight to the limbic system, the ancient core where emotion lives. And so, when we encounter a familiar scent or sound, we are transported instantly, not to the memory itself, but to the feeling of it. This is why certain songs can make us cry, why certain smells can make us feel like children again. The body remembers what the mind has forgotten. Nostalgia is the bittersweet ache of remembering. It is the longing for a time or place or version of ourselves that no longer exists. And while it can feel sad, research suggests that nostalgia serves an important purpose. It reminds us that we have lived, that we have loved, that we have experienced beauty and connection. It anchors us in a sense of continuity, a feeling that even though everything changes, there is a thread that runs through our lives, connecting who we were with who we are now. But nostalgia can also distort. We tend to remember the past as better than it was. We edit out the pain, the boredom, the difficult moments, and what remains is a kind of golden glow. This is not dishonesty. It is self-compassion. The mind protects us by softening the edges of the past, by allowing us to look back without being overwhelmed by regret or loss. And in this way, memory becomes not just a record, but a gift. There are also the memories we wish we could forget, the moments that haunt us, the words we wish we had not said, the choices we would undo if we could. These memories return uninvited, often in the quiet hours, and they carry with them a weight that feels unbearable. But even these memories, painful as they are, serve a purpose. They teach us. They remind us of our values. They show us who we do not want to be. And over time, if we are gentle with ourselves, even these memories can soften, can become part of the story we tell about how we grew. The act of remembering is also an act of love. When we hold someone in memory, we keep them alive in a way that transcends physical presence. We carry them with us. We speak of them. We let their influence shape who we are becoming. And in this way, memory becomes a bridge between past and present, a way of honoring what was while still moving forward into what will be. As you rest here now, let your own memories drift to the surface if they wish. Do not chase them. Do not force them away. Simply notice them as they come and go like clouds reflected in still water. Some will make you smile. Some may bring a gentle ache. All of them are part of you. All of them are threads in the tapestry of your life. And all of them, in their own way, are leading you here to this moment, to this breath, to this soft, unfolding now. In the quiet architecture of the mind, where patterns repeat like familiar songs, habits form without announcement. They are the invisible rails along which our days glide, the routines we follow without thought, the small actions that, taken together, create the shape of a life. Habits are not the enemy. They are the mind's way of conserving energy, of turning the effortful into the automatic, so that we can save our attention for what truly matters. Every habit begins with a decision, a choice made consciously, perhaps even deliberately. You decide to brush your teeth in the morning, to take a certain route to work, to check your phone when you feel bored, but after enough repetitions, the decision fades. The action remains, but the conscious thought behind it dissolves. The habit has become encoded, written into the neural pathways of the brain so deeply that it feels less like a choice and more like simply who you are. This process is both gift and challenge. The gift is efficiency. We do not have to relearn how to tie our shoes every morning. We do not have to deliberate over every small action. The brain automates what it can, freeing up mental resources for problem solving, creativity, connection. But the challenge is that the brain does not distinguish between helpful habits and harmful ones. It will automate anything we repeat often enough, whether it serves us or not. The structure of a habit is simple. There is a cue, a trigger that tells the brain to initiate the behavior. There is a routine, the action itself, and there is a reward, the feeling or outcome that reinforces the loop. Over time, the cue and the reward become linked so tightly that the routine happens almost involuntarily. You feel stressed, so you reach for a snack. You finish dinner, so you turn on the television. The sequence becomes a groove worn into the day. And walking that groove requires no effort at all. But habits can also be changed. Not easily and not quickly, but with patience and attention, the brain can be retrained. The key is not to fight the cue or eliminate the reward, but to replace the routine with something new. You feel stressed, and instead of reaching for a snack, you take 3 deep breaths. You finish dinner, and instead of turning on the television, you step outside for a moment of quiet. The brain is flexible. It is capable of learning new patterns. It simply needs repetition and kindness toward the inevitable stumbles along the way. There is also something deeply soothing about routine. In a world that is unpredictable and often overwhelming, habits offer a sense of control. They create pockets of familiarity in the chaos. Morning coffee, evening walks, the same bedtime ritual night after night. These are not signs of rigidity. They are anchors. They remind the nervous system that some things can be counted on, that not everything is uncertain, that there is order to be found, even in small acts. Children thrive on routine for this very reason. When a child knows what comes next, they feel safe. The predictability soothes their developing nervous system. And while adults often resist routine, believing it to be boring or limiting, the truth is that we too need this structure. We too are calmed by the knowledge that some things will remain constant, that there are rhythms we can rely on. Psychologists have found that willpower is a limited resource. We wake each day with a certain amount of it, and every decision we make, every temptation we resist, depletes that reserve. But habits do not require willpower. Once a behavior is automated, it happens without deliberation, without draining the mental energy needed for more important choices. This is why people who have strong habits around exercise or healthy eating often say it feels effortless. They are not more disciplined. They have simply offloaded the decision to the automatic parts of the brain. But there is also danger in too much automation. When we move through life entirely on habit, we stop noticing. We stop being present. Days blur together. Weeks pass without a single memorable moment. We become, in a sense, asleep to our own lives. And so, while habits are useful, they must be balanced with intentionality, with moments where we break the pattern and choose something new, where we surprise ourselves and remind the mind that it is still capable of wonder. Changing a habit is an act of self-compassion. It is saying to yourself, I deserve better than this pattern. I am worth the effort it takes to grow. And it is important to approach this work gently. The brain resists change. It prefers the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. And so, any attempt to shift a habit will be met with resistance. The key is not to force, but to guide. To notice when the old pattern arises, and without judgment, to choose differently. Again and again. Until the new pattern begins to feel like home. There are also habits of thought. Patterns of thinking that repeat so often they become the lens through which we see the world. A habit of self-criticism. A habit of catastrophizing. A habit of assuming the worst. These mental habits are just as real and just as changeable as behavioral ones, but they require the same patience, the same willingness to notice without judgment, the same gentle persistence in choosing a different thought, a kinder interpretation, a softer story. And so, as you lie here in the growing stillness, consider your own habits, not to judge them, but simply to see them. What patterns shape your days? What routines bring you comfort? What habits might you wish to release? And what new ones might you gently invite in? There is no urgency. There is no failure. There is only the slow, tender work of becoming the person you wish to be, one small, repeated action at a time. Far beneath the surface of awareness, where reason blurs and intuition takes over, the mind makes choices. Every moment of every day, we decide what to notice, what to ignore, what to believe, what to doubt. We like to think of ourselves as rational being, yes, carefully weighing evidence and arriving at logical conclusions. But the truth is softer and stranger than that. Most of our decisions are made not through deliberate thought, but through quiet shortcuts the mind has learned over time, biases and heuristics that guide us quickly, if not always accurately, through a world too complex to fully understand. These shortcuts are not flaws. They are survival tools. The brain cannot process every piece of information it encounters. It would be paralyzed by the sheer volume of stimuli. And so, it has learned to simplify, to categorize, to make assumptions based on patterns it has seen before. This allows us to move through the world with speed and efficiency, to make decisions in seconds that would take hours if we had to analyze them fully. But it also means that we are often wrong in ways we do not realize, guided by invisible forces that shape our choices without our knowledge. One of the most common biases is confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out information that supports what we already believe and to ignore information that contradicts it. We do not do this consciously. We do not wake up and decide to be close-minded, but the brain prefers coherence. It wants the world to make sense. And so it filters reality through the lens of existing belief, creating a kind of echo chamber where our assumptions are constantly reinforced. This feels like clarity. It feels like truth. But it is often just the mind protecting itself from the discomfort of uncertainty. Another quiet influence is the availability heuristic, the tendency to judge the likelihood of something based on how easily examples come to mind. If we have recently heard about a plane crash, we may overestimate the danger of flying. If we know someone who won the lottery, we may believe our own chances are better than they are. The mind mistakes vividness for frequency, and in doing so, it distorts our perception of risk and possibility. There is also the anchoring effect, the way the first piece of information we receive shapes everything that comes after. If a shirt is marked down from $100 to $50, we feel we are getting a deal, even if the shirt was never worth $100 to begin with. The initial number, the anchor, sets the frame, and all subsequent judgments are made relative to it. This is why negotiators state their terms first, why advertisers show the original price before the sale price. They are not lying. They are simply using the way the mind naturally works, guiding it toward a particular conclusion. We are also deeply influenced by social proof, the tendency to look to others when we are uncertain. If everyone else is doing something, it must be right. If a restaurant is crowded, the food must be good. If a belief is widely held, it must be true. This is not stupidity. It is an evolutionary adaptation. For most of human history, following the group meant safety. Going against the group meant danger. And so we are wired to conform, to trust the wisdom of the crowd, even when the crowd is wrong. The brain also prefers stories to statistics. We are moved by individual narratives, by the story of one person's struggle or triumph, far more than we are by abstract numbers. This is why charities show us the face of a single child rather than telling us how many children are suffering. The mind connects to the particular. It struggles to grasp the enormity of large numbers. And so we make decisions based on what feels real, on what we can imagine, rather than on what the data might suggest. There is also the sunk cost fallacy, the reluctance to abandon something we have already invested in, even when continuing is clearly not in our best interest. We stay in a job we hate because we have already spent years there. We finish a book we are not enjoying because we have already read half of it. The mind does not want to admit that the investment was wasted. And so it keeps going, throwing good time after bad, in the hope that eventually the effort will have been worth it. Perhaps the most pervasive bias is optimism bias, the belief that bad things happen to other people, but not to us. We underestimate our own risk. We assume we will be the exception. We believe, against all evidence, that things will work out. And while this can lead to poor decisions, to a failure to plan or prepare, it is also what allows us to keep going. Without optimism, even irrational optimism, we would be paralyzed by fear. We would never take risks, never try anything new. And so the bias, flawed as it is, serves a purpose. It gives us the courage to live. Understanding these biases does not eliminate them. We cannot think our way out of the way we think, but we can become more aware. We can notice when we are being guided by a shortcut. We can pause before deciding. We can ask ourselves whether we are seeing clearly or whether we are seeing what we want to see. And in that pause, there is the possibility of choice, the chance to respond rather than react, to be guided not by the automatic patterns of the mind, but by something deeper and more intentional. And so, as you rest here in the quiet, let go of the need to decide anything. Let go of the need to be right or certain or clear. The mind will keep making its quiet calculations, and that is fine. You do not need to control it. You need only to notice it, to see it with kindness, to understand that you are doing your best with a brain that was never designed for the world you live in now. And in that understanding, there is a softness, a forgiveness, a gentle acceptance of the beautiful, flawed way we all move through this life. There is a particular warmth that arises when we are with others, a softness that settles over the nervous system when we are seen and accepted. Human beings are not solitary creatures. We are woven together by invisible threads, by the need to belong, to connect, to be part of something larger than ourselves. And the way we relate to one another, the patterns we follow in the presence of others, is a quiet language all its own. Social behavior begins long before we have words for it. As infants, we learn to read faces. We learn that a smile means safety and that a frown might mean something is wrong. We learn to reach out and to cry when we feel alone. And throughout our lives, we continue this learning, refining our understanding of what it means to be with others, to be part of a group, to navigate the delicate balance between autonomy and belonging. One of the most powerful forces in social psychology is conformity, the tendency to align our behavior with the behavior of those around us. We do this without thinking. When everyone in a room is quiet, we speak softly. When everyone is laughing, we feel lighter. When everyone is afraid, our own fear intensifies. This is not weakness. It is attunement. It is the way we stay connected to the emotional climate around us, the way we signal that we are part of the group and not a threat to it. Psychologists have shown that people will conform even when they know the group is wrong. In a famous experiment, participants were asked to judge the length of lines. When others in the room, who were secretly part of the experiment, gave an obviously incorrect answer, many participants went along with the group rather than trust their own perception. This is how powerful the need to belong can be. We would rather be wrong together than right alone. But conformity is not always about fear or insecurity. It is also about cooperation. Human survival has always depended on our ability to work together, to coordinate our actions, to create shared norms and expectations. When we all agree to drive on the same side of the road, to wait our turn in line, to say please and thank you, we are engaging in a kind of social choreography that makes life smoother for everyone. Conformity, in this sense, is kindness. It is the willingness to adjust ourselves slightly so that the group can function. There is also the phenomenon of social facilitation, the way our performance changes in the presence of others. For simple or well-practiced tasks, being watched can improve our performance. The presence of others energizes us, but for complex or unfamiliar tasks, being observed can hinder us. We become self-conscious. We second-guess ourselves. The very awareness that we are being seen disrupts the flow of what we are trying to do. And so, whether we thrive or falter in company depends not just on our skill, but on the nature of the task and the quality of the attention we are receiving. Humans are also deeply influenced by authority. We tend to obey those we perceive as legitimate leaders, even when their commands conflict with our own moral compass. This was famously demonstrated in experiments where participants were instructed to administer what they believed were painful electric shocks to another person. Many obeyed, not because they were cruel, but because an authority figure told them it was necessary. This reveals something uncomfortable about human nature, that we can be led to do things we would never choose on our own, that the presence of authority can override our own sense of right and wrong. But it also reveals something hopeful. It shows that we are capable of questioning authority, that we can, with awareness and courage, choose to disobey when obedience would cause harm. The key is to recognize the influence, to see when we are deferring to someone simply because of their position rather than because of their wisdom. And in that recognition, we reclaim our own moral agency. Another powerful aspect of social behavior is empathy, the ability to feel what another person is feeling, to step into their experience and understand their pain or joy as though it were our own. Mirror neurons in the brain fire when we observe someone else's actions or emotions, creating a kind of now simulation. This is why we wince when we see someone get hurt, why we smile when we see someone smile. We are not separate. We are constantly resonating with the people around us, absorbing their emotional states and reflecting them back. Empathy is what allows us to care for one another, to offer comfort when someone is suffering, to celebrate when someone succeeds. But it can also be overwhelming. When we are surrounded by pain, we can become saturated with it. This is why caregivers and healers must learn to set boundaries, to distinguish between compassion and absorption, to hold space for others without losing themselves. There is also the concept of deindividuation, the loss of self-awareness that can occur in groups. When we are part of a crowd, we sometimes act in ways we never would alone. The individual sense of responsibility fades. We become part of a collective identity, and that identity can lead us to acts of great courage or great cruelty. This is the double edge of group behavior. It can bring out the best in us or the worst. And the difference often lies in the values the group holds and the behavior it normalizes. Despite all the ways we influence one another, there is also a deep need for individuality. We want to belong, but we also want to be seen as unique. We want to fit in, but we also want to stand out. And navigating this tension is one of the central challenges of being human. We spend our lives balancing the need for connection with the need for authenticity, the desire to be accepted with the desire to be ourselves. And when we find people who allow us to do both, who welcome us exactly as we are, that is when we feel most at home. So as you rest here, surrounded by the quiet, know that you are part of a vast, intricate web of connection. Every person you have ever met has shaped you in some small way, and you, in turn, have shaped them. We are all mirrors for one another, reflecting back what we see, learning from each other how to be. And in this endless exchange, we are never truly alone. Deep within the human heart, there lives a longing, a quiet ache for closeness, for safety, for someone to see us and stay. This is attachment. It is the invisible thread that binds us to the people we love, of the force that draws us toward connection and makes us feel unmoored when connection is lost. Attachment is not a choice. It is wired into us from the very beginning, a survival mechanism as essential as breath. In the first moments of life, an infant reaches for warmth, for touch, for the steady rhythm of another heartbeat. The baby does not know what it is reaching for, does not have words for the need, but the body knows. The body knows that to be alone is to be in danger. And so attachment forms a bond between the infant and the caregiver, a bond that will shape every relationship that follows. Psychologists speak of different attachment styles, patterns of relating that develop in early childhood and persist, often unconsciously, throughout life. Secure attachment forms when a caregiver is consistently responsive, when the child learns that their needs will be met, that they are safe, that they are loved. These children grow into adults who trust easily, who can be vulnerable without fear, who can love without clinging and separate without falling apart. But not all attachment is secure. Some children learn that their caregivers are unpredictable, sometimes present, sometimes absent, sometimes warm, sometimes cold. These children develop an anxious attachment style. They grow into adults who crave closeness but fear abandonment, who need constant reassurance, who love intensely and desperately, always waiting for the other person to leave. Others learn that reaching out brings nothing but disappointment, that their needs are too much, that they must take care of themselves because no one else will. These children develop an avoidant attachment style. They grow into adults who keep others at a distance, who pride themselves on independence, who fear intimacy because intimacy means vulnerability, and vulnerability feels like weakness. And some experience such inconsistency, such chaos, that they develop a disorganized attachment style. They want closeness and fear it in equal measure. They reach out and pull away simultaneously. Their relationships are turbulent, confusing, filled with push and pull. This is not manipulation. It is the nervous system trying to navigate a world where love and danger were once impossible to tell apart. But these patterns are not fixed. Attachment styles can change. With awareness, with therapy, with relationships that offer something different than what we learned in childhood, we can begin to heal. We can learn to trust when trust was once broken. We can learn to be close when closeness once felt dangerous. The brain is plastic. The heart is resilient. And we are always, always capable of growth. Comfort is one of the deepest human needs. We see. Echoed in touch, in presence, in the sound of a familiar voice. When we are comforted, the nervous system calms. Cortisol levels drop, heart rate slows. The body remembers in some ancient way that it is not alone, that it is held, that it is safe. And this feeling of safety is the foundation for everything else, for exploration, for creativity, for risk. We can only venture out into the world if we know we have a safe place to return to. This is why children run freely in a playground when their caregiver is nearby and freeze when the caregiver is out of sight. The secure base, the knowledge that someone is there, allows for freedom. And the same is true for adults. We are braver, kinder, more open when we know we are loved, when we know that if we fall, someone will help us up. Love in its many forms is an attachment behavior. Romantic love, parental love, the love between friends. All of it is the same underlying drive, the need to connect, to bond, to not be alone. And while culture teaches us to see romantic love as the highest form, the truth is that all love is essential. All love heals. The friend who listens without judgment, the parent who holds us when we cry, the partner who stays even when things are hard. All of it is the same gift. The gift of being seen and chosen and held. There is also a kind of love we must offer ourselves. Self-compassion is the practice of treating ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a dear friend. It is noticing when we are in pain and responding with gentleness rather than criticism. It is understanding that we are doing our best, even when our best feels inadequate. And research shows that self-compassion is not self-indulgence. It does not make us weak or lazy. It makes us stronger. It gives us the resilience to keep trying, even after we fail. Attachment is also about trust, about the belief that we can depend on someone, that they will be there when we need them. And trust is built slowly over time through countless small acts of consistency. A promise kept, a call returned, a presence offered without condition. Trust is fragile. It can be broken in an instant and take years to repair. But when it is strong, it is one of the greatest gifts we can give or receive. And so, as you rest here in this soft, darkening space, think about the people who have held you. The ones who made you feel safe. The ones who saw you and stayed. Let yourself feel the warmth of that connection, even if they are far away now, even if they are no longer here. The bonds we form do not disappear. They live inside us. They shape who we are. And in some quiet, mysterious way, they are always with us, holding us still. Somewhere in the quiet chambers of the heart, there is a question that never quite leaves us. It whispers in the stillness. It hums beneath the noise of daily life. The question is this: why am I here? What does it all mean? And while the world offers no single answer, the mind continues to search, to create, to weave meaning from the raw material of existence. This is one of the most human things we do. We are meaning-making creatures. We cannot help but tell stories about who we are and what it all means. Meaning is not something we find. It is something we create. The universe does not hand us purpose wrapped in a bow. It offers us only the raw elements, time, experience, choice, connection, and asks us to make something from them. And so we do. We tell ourselves that we are here to love, to learn, to create, to help. We tell ourselves that suffering has a purpose. That joy is a gift, that even the smallest life can ripple outward and touch the infinite. Some people find meaning in work, in the sense that what they do matters, that their effort contributes to something larger than themselves. Others find it in relationships, in being a good parent, a loyal friend, a loving partner. Still others find it in creativity, in spirituality, in the pursuit of knowledge. The source does not matter as much as the sense of it, the feeling that there is a reason to get up in the morning, that the day ahead holds something worth moving toward. Psychologists have found that people who have a strong sense of meaning live longer, healthier lives. They are more resilient in the face of adversity, more capable of withstanding loss and disappointment. This is not because meaning protects them from suffering. It is because meaning helps them endure it. When we believe that our pain serves a purpose, that it is teaching us something, or shaping us into someone stronger, or bringing us closer to what truly matters, we can bear it. We can hold it without being destroyed by it. But meaning is not always grand or lofty. It does not have to be about saving the world or achieving greatness. Sometimes meaning is found in the smallest moments, in the taste of morning coffee, in the sound of rain against the window, in the way a dog greets you at the door as though you are the most important person in the world. These moments, strung together, create a life. And a life does not need to be extraordinary to be meaningful. It need only be lived with attention, with care, with gratitude for the fact that it is happening at all. There is also the meaning we make from suffering. When something terrible happens, when we lose someone we love, when we face illness or failure or betrayal, we are confronted with a choice. We can see it as senseless, as proof that the world is cruel and random, or we can find a way to let it teach us, to let it crack us open so that more light can get in. This is not about pretending that pain is good. It is about refusing to let pain have the final word. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, wrote that the last of human freedoms is the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. He watched people in the most horrific conditions imaginable, and he saw that those who could find meaning, who could hold on to a reason to survive, were the ones who endured. Meaning, he said, is what makes life worth living. And meaning can be found anywhere, even in the darkest places, if we are willing to look for it. Humans also create meaning through narrative. We tell stories about our lives. We decide which events are significant and which are not. We connect the dots in a way that makes sense to us. This is why two people can go through the same experience and come away with completely different understandings of what it meant. We are not passive recipients of life. We are active interpreters. We are authors of our own stories, even if we do not always realize it. And the stories we tell matter. If we tell ourselves that we are victims, that life is happening to us, that we have no control, we will feel powerless. If we tell ourselves that we are survivors, that we have agency, that we can choose how to respond, we will feel stronger. The facts of our lives may not change, but the meaning we make from them can. And that shift in meaning can change everything. Belief, too, is a form of meaning-making. Whether the belief is in God, in the universe, in humanity, or simply in the possibility of a better tomorrow, it offers a framework, a way of organizing the chaos, a sense that there is order, even if we cannot see it. And while belief can be a source of comfort, it can also be a source of conflict. Because when we are deeply attached to one way of making meaning, it can be threatening to encounter someone who makes meaning differently. And yet, the diversity of meaning is part of what makes us human. We do not all need to see the world the same way. We need only to respect that each of us is doing our best to make sense of it. So as you lie here, drifting in the soft dark, ask yourself gently, what gives your life meaning? Not what should or what you think you are supposed to say, but what actually does. What makes you feel alive? What makes you glad to be here? And whatever the answer is, let it be enough. Let it be the quiet star you follow through the night. In the gentle architecture of the body, there is a rhythm older than thought. A cycle that rises and falls with the sun, that pulls us toward wakefulness, and then, inevitably, toward rest. This is circadian rhythm, the body's internal clock, the quiet pulse that knows when it is time to be awake and when it is time to sleep. And while the world we live in often tries to override this rhythm, with artificial light and busy schedules, and the belief that sleep is a luxury rather than a necessity, the body remembers. It keeps time in its own ancient way. Sleep is not a shutdown. It is not a passive state where nothing happens. It is an active, intricate process, a time when the brain sorts through the day, consolidates memories, repairs tissue, balances hormones, and clears away waste that has accumulated during waking hours. Without sleep, the mind begins to fray. Thoughts become clouded. Emotions become unstable. The body weakens. Sleep is not optional. It is essential. It is the foundation upon which everything else rests. There are stages to sleep, each with its own purpose. In the first stage, we hover at the edge of consciousness. The muscles begin to relax. The heart rate slows. We are not quite asleep, but no longer fully awake. This is the threshold, the soft transition from day into night. And then we slip deeper into light sleep, where the body continues to settle and the brain begins to quiet. Stage 3 is deep sleep, the slow wave sleep where restoration happens. This is the sleep that feels like sinking into warm water, like being held by something larger than ourselves. In this stage, the body repairs itself. Growth hormone is released, tissues are rebuilt, the immune system strengthens, and the brain, too, is at work, consolidating the memories that matter and letting go of the rest. Deep sleep is the most restorative. It is the sleep that, when we wake, makes us feel truly rested. And then there is REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, the stage where dreams unfold. The brain becomes as active as it is during waking, but the body is paralyzed, as if to protect us from acting out the strange narratives the mind creates. REM sleep is where emotional processing happens, where the events of the day are woven into the larger tapestry of our lives, where fears are rehearsed and desires are explored. Dreams are not random. They are the mind's way of making sense of what it has experienced, of integrating the new with the known. The purpose of dreaming is still not fully understood. Some researchers believe dreams are a form of emotional regulation, that they allow us to process difficult feelings in a safe, metaphorical space. Others believe they serve a problem-solving function, that the brain, freed from the constraints of logic, can make creative connections it would not make while awake. And still others see dreams as simply the brain's attempt to make sense of random neural activity. But whatever their purpose, dreams are deeply personal. They are the stories we tell ourselves when no one else is listening. Sleep is also influenced by our habits and environment. The blue light from screens disrupts the production of melatonin, the hormone that signals to the body that it is time to sleep. A room that is too warm or too noisy makes it harder to stay asleep. Caffeine and alcohol, though they seem to help in the moment, actually interfere with the quality of rest. And stress, that constant hum of worry that so many of us carry, can keep the mind alert long after the body has begged for rest. But there are also things that help. A consistent sleep schedule, going to bed and waking at the same time each day, helps the body's internal clock stay synchronized. A bedtime routine, something gentle and predictable, that signals to the brain that it is time to wind down, can ease the transition into sleep. And creating a sleep environment that is cool, dark, and quiet tells the body that it is safe to let go. Insomnia is the experience of wanting to sleep, but being unable to. It is lying awake while the mind races. It is the frustration of exhaustion that will not turn into rest, and it is, for many people, a source of deep distress. But often, the harder we try to force sleep, the more elusive it becomes. Sleep is not something we do. It is something we allow. It requires surrender. And when the mind is tense with trying, surrender becomes impossible. There is a gentle practice that can help. Instead of trying to sleep, we can simply try to rest, to lie still, to breathe slowly, to let the body be heavy. And in that rest, even without sleep, there is healing. The body can recover. The mind can quiet. And sometimes, when we stop chasing sleep, it comes to us on its own. As you lie here now, notice the softness that is beginning to settle over you. Notice the way your breath has slowed, the way your body has become heavy. You are already doing what you need to do. You are already resting. And whether sleep comes now or later, you are exactly where you need to be. There is no urgency, no demand. Only this, the quiet, gentle invitation to let go. In the tender spaces of the mind, where worry lives, there is a system designed to protect us. It is called anxiety, and though it feels like an enemy, it is actually trying to help. Anxiety is the body's alarm system. It is the signal that something might be wrong, that danger might be near, that we need to be ready. And in a world where real threats existed around every corner, this system saved lives. But in the modern world, where most dangers are not physical, the alarm keeps ringing, even when there is nothing to run from. Anxiety is not one feeling. It is a constellation of sensations, a racing heart, tight muscles, shallow breath, a mind that spirals through worst-case scenarios, a sense of impending doom that has no clear source. It is the body preparing for a threat it cannot see. And because the threat is not real, the preparation has nowhere to go. The energy builds, the tension increases, and the person caught in it feels trapped, unable to fight, unable to flee, unable to rest. But anxiety is not irrational. It is simply overly cautious. It is a protective mechanism that has become too sensitive, and understanding this can help. When we see anxiety not as a weakness or a flaw, but as an overactive alarm system, we can begin to work with it rather than against it. We can thank it for trying to keep us safe. And then, gently, we can let it know that we are not in danger right now. One of the most effective ways to calm anxiety is through the breath. When we are anxious, our breathing becomes fast and shallow. This signals to the brain that we are in danger, which increases anxiety further. But if we consciously slow the breath, if we breathe deeply into the belly rather than the chest, we send a different signal. We tell the brain thaw. We are safe. And the brain, trusting the body, begins to calm. Another tool is grounding. When anxiety pulls us into the future, into all the things that might go wrong, grounding brings us back to the present. We can do this by noticing what we see, what we hear, what we feel against our skin. We can focus on the sensation of our feet on the floor, the weight of our body in the chair. We can remind ourselves that right now, in this moment, we are okay. Anxiety lives in the future. Safety lives in the now. Anxiety also thrives on avoidance. When we are afraid of something, our instinct is to avoid it. And in the short term, avoidance works. It reduces the discomfort, but in the long term, it makes the anxiety stronger. Because every time we avoid something, we reinforce the belief that it is dangerous. We teach the brain that it was right to be afraid, and so the fear grows. The only way to weaken anxiety is to face it, not all at once, but gradually, gently, in small steps that feel manageable. This is called exposure, and it is not about being brave. It is about being willing to sit with discomfort for a moment longer than feels easy, willing to take one small step toward the thing we fear. And over time, as we do this again and again, the brain begins to learn that the feared thing is not as dangerous as it believed. The alarm system recalibrates. The anxiety softens. But there is also a kind of anxiety that is not about specific fears. It is a generalized unease, a sense that something is wrong even when everything is fine. This is often a sign that the nervous system is overwhelmed, that there is too much stress, too little rest, too many demands, and not enough support. And in these cases, the solution is not to fix the anxiety directly, but to care for the whole person, to sleep more, to move the body, to connect with others, to find moments of ease and pleasure and calm. Anxiety is also closely linked to control. We become anxious when we feel that things are out of our control, and the more we try to control everything, the more anxious we become. Because control is an illusion. We cannot control the future. We cannot control other people. We cannot even fully control ourselves. And the sooner we can accept this, the sooner we can let go of the need to control, the lighter we become. There is a paradox in anxiety. The more we fight it, the stronger it gets. The more we try to push it away, the more it clings. But when we allow it, when we make space for it, when we say, "You can be here. I will not fight you. I will just sit with you for a while," it begins to lose its power. Anxiety cannot survive acceptance. It can only survive resistance. And so, if anxiety is with you now, let it be. Do not try to fix it or figure it out or make it go away. Just notice it. Notice where it lives in your body. Notice the thoughts it brings. And then gently bring your attention back to your breath, back to the present moment, back to the knowing that you are safe right here, right now. Anxiety is a visitor. It will come and it will go. And you, the one who watches it, are bigger than it will ever be. There is a kind of strength that does not announce itself. It does not flex or shout or demand to be seen. It is the quiet strength of resilience, the ability to bend without breaking, to face difficulty and somehow continue. Resilience is not about being unshaken. It is about shaking and still standing. It is about falling and finding a way to rise. And it is, in many ways, the most beautiful quality a person can have. Resilience is not something we are born with. It is something we build. It is forged in the fires of challenge and struggle and loss. Every time we face something difficult and survive it, we become a little stronger. Every time we are knocked down and get back up, we teach ourselves that we can. And over time, this accumulates. We develop a quiet confidence, not that life will be easy, but that we can handle whatever it brings. One of the key components of resilience is perspective. Resilient people do not see failure as final. They see it as feedback. They do not see setbacks as proof that they are not good enough. They see them as part of the process. And this shift in perspective makes all the difference. Because when we believe that failure means we should give up, we do. But when we believe that failure means we need to try differently, we keep going. Resilient people also have a sense of agency. They believe that they have some control over their lives, that their actions matter, that they are not helpless. This does not mean they believe they can control everything. It means they believe they can control something, and that something is enough. They focus on what they can change and let go of what they cannot. And in doing so, they conserve their energy for the battles that actually matter. Another element of resilience is connection. We are not meant to face life alone. And people, who have strong social support, who have friends, family, community, are better able to withstand hardship. This is because connection provides a buffer against stress. It reminds us that we are not alone. It gives us people to lean on when we are too tired to stand. And it offers a sense of belonging that makes even the darkest times a little more bearable. Resilience is also tied to meaning. When we believe that our suffering has a purpose, that it is teaching us something, or making us stronger, or allowing us to help others who are going through the same thing, we can endure it. Viktor Frankl, who we spoke of earlier, said that those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. And this is true. Meaning does not eliminate pain, but it makes pain bearable. Resilient people also practice self-compassion. They do not berate themselves for struggling. They do not demand perfection. They understand that they are human, that they will make mistakes, that they will falter, that they will sometimes feel too tired to keep going. And when these moments come, they treat themselves with the same kindness they would offer a friend. They rest when they need to rest. They ask for help when they need help. They forgive themselves when they fall short. There is also a kind of resilience that comes from acceptance. Not acceptance of injustice or cruelty, but acceptance of reality as it is. When we spend our energy wishing things were different, we exhaust ourselves. But when we can say, this is what is what I am working with, what can I do from here? We free up that energy to actually move forward. Acceptance is not defeat, it is clarity. It is the willingness to start from where we are rather than where we wish we were. Resilience is not the absence of struggle. It is the presence of something stronger than struggle. It is hope. It is courage. It is the stubborn refusal to let hardship have the final word. And it is available to all of us, not because we are special, but because we are human. And humans, for all our fragility, have an astonishing capacity to survive. So if you are going through something difficult right now, know this. You are stronger than you think. You have already survived every hard day you have ever faced. You have already proven that you can endure. And whatever lies ahead, you will find a way through it. Not because it will be easy, but because you are resilient. And resilience is not about never falling. It is about always getting back up. There is a quiet light that each of us carries, a soft awareness that allows us to see ourselves not as we wish we were, but as we truly are. This is self-awareness. It is the ability to step back from our own thoughts and feelings and observe them without judgment. It is the practice of noticing what is happening inside us, the emotions that rise and fall, the patterns that repeat, the stories we tell ourselves, and holding all of it with gentle curiosity. Self-awareness is not the same as self-criticism. It is not about finding flaws and cataloging failures. It is about seeing clearly, about understanding why we do what we do, why we react the way we react, why certain situations trigger us and others do not. And in that understanding, there is freedom. Because when we know ourselves, we are less likely to be controlled by unconscious patterns. We are more able to choose our responses rather than being swept away by our reactions. The journey towards self-awareness often begins with simply paying attention, noticing when we feel tense and asking what might be causing it, noticing when we feel joy and letting ourselves savor it, noticing when we lash out in anger and wondering what deeper feeling might be underneath. Self-awareness is not about having all the answers. It is about being willing to ask the questions. One tool for cultivating self-awareness is mindfulness, the practice of bringing attention to the present moment without judgment. This can be done through meditation, but it can also be woven into everyday life. Paying attention to the taste of food, noticing the sensation of water on skin, feeling the breath move in and out. These small acts of attention train the mind to be present, and in presence, we begin to see ourselves more clearly. Journaling is another powerful tool. When we write about our experiences, we externalize what is inside. We give shape to thoughts that were vague and formless. We see patterns we might have missed. And in the act of writing, we often discover things we did not know we knew. The page becomes a mirror, and in it, we see ourselves reflected. Self-awareness also involves understanding our triggers. We all have moments when we react more strongly than the situation warrants. When a small comment feels like an attack, when a minor inconvenience feels unbearable. These reactions are clues. They point to something deeper, an old wound, an unmet need, a belief we carry about ourselves or the world. And when we can identify the trigger, we can begin to heal the wound beneath it. Another aspect of self-awareness is recognizing our values. What matters most to us? What do we care about? What kind of person do we want to be? These questions are not always easy to answer, but they are important, because when we know what we value, we can make choices that align with those values. And when our actions align with our values, we feel a sense of integrity, a sense of being whole. Self-awareness also means acknowledging our limitations. We all have things we're not good at, things we do not enjoy, things that drain us, and that is okay. We do not have to be good at everything. We do not have to enjoy everything. We can be honest about what we need and what we do not have to give. And in that honesty, there is relief. There is permission to be human. But self-awareness is not a destination. It is a practice. We do not arrive at perfect understanding and stay there. We continue to learn about ourselves throughout our lives. We continue to notice new patterns, new reactions, new layers. And this is part of the beauty. We are not static. We are always growing, always changing, always becoming. And so, as you rest here in the quiet, turn your attention gently inward. Not to judge what you find, but simply to notice. What do you feel right now? Where do you feel it in your body? What thoughts are moving through your mind? You do not need to change anything. You need only to see it, to witness yourself with kindness. And in that witnessing, you are practicing the art of self-awareness, the art of holding yourself in the softest, most compassionate light. And now, as the night deepens and the world outside grows still, we arrive at the final threshold. We have walked together through 100 quiet truths about what it means to be human. We have explored the body's silent language, the mind's gentle wandering, the heart's need for connection. We have looked at emotions and memories, habits and decisions, anxiety and resilience. And through it all, one truth has remained constant: that to understand ourselves is not to solve ourselves, but to hold ourselves with a little more kindness. Psychology is not a map with clear directions. It is a lantern that helps us see in the dark. It does not tell us where to go, but it illuminates what is already here: the patterns, the struggles, the beauty, the complexity. And in that illumination, we find not answers, but companionship. We find the knowledge that we are not alone in what we feel, that what we experience is part of the larger human story, that we are, all of us, doing our best with minds and hearts that were shaped by forces we did not choose. Inner peace is not a place we arrive at once and stay forever. It is a practice. It is the choice, made again and again, to meet ourselves with compassion, to notice when we are suffering and respond with gentleness, to let go of the demand that we be perfect and accept that we are beautifully, messily, gloriously human. Inner peace is not the absence of struggle. It is the presence of acceptance. It is found in small moments, in the pause between thoughts, in the breath that brings us back to now, in the decision to stop fighting what is and start working with it, in the willingness to see ourselves clearly without turning away, in the knowledge that we are enough, exactly as we are, even as we continue to grow. Throughout this journey, we have learned that the mind is not something to be controlled, but something to be understood. That emotions are not weaknesses, but signals. That our patterns and habits, though deeply ingrained, can be gently reshaped. That connection is not a luxury, but a necessity. That meaning is not found, but created. And that we are, at our core, resilient beings capable of enduring far more than we often believe. But perhaps the most important thing we have learned is this: that self-knowledge is an act of love. To study the mind is to honor it. To understand our own behavior is to give ourselves the gift of compassion. And to recognize that we are all struggling, all learning, all trying to find our way. This is the beginning of peace. So as you lie here now, on the edge of sleep, let yourself feel the weight of the day lifting. Let the thoughts that have been circling begin to settle like dust. Let the tension you have been carrying release its grip. You have done enough. You are enough. And there is nothing you need to prove or accomplish or become in this moment. You need only to be here, to rest, to allow the quiet to hold you. The 100 facts we have moved through tonight are not meant to be remembered in detail. They are meant to wash over you like a gentle tide, to remind you that you are a creature of depth and wonder, that your mind is a landscape worth exploring, and that the journey of understanding yourself is one of the kindest things you will ever do. Tomorrow will come, and with it, new challenges and new choices. But for now, there is only this: the softness of your pillow, the rhythm of your breath, the quiet hum of the world outside, and the deep, abiding knowledge that you are held by your own awareness, by the mysteries of the mind, by the simple fact of being alive. So let go now. Let the day dissolve. Let the questions fade. Let the need to understand, to solve, to fix, let all of it drift away like smoke. You are safe. You are whole. And you are exactly where you need to be. Sleep well, rest deeply. And know that in the morning when you wake, you will carry with you the quiet understanding that you are and always have been enough. Good night.